All right, good morning to you all. Welcome back to the 4th Tibet Environment Conference, Tibet Water Tower Asia, organized by Tibet Policy Institute in collaboration with the Chulalongkorn University. This is the panel 1 of the first day, where the theme is Water, Climate Nexus, Impact of Climate Change on Water. Before I introduce my panelists, please allow me to introduce myself, so to make myself relevant to the panel discussion itself. My name is Tempa Gyaltsen Zamlha. I was the former head of Environment and Development Desk. I was also the former Deputy Director of Tibet Policy Institute. I have been an environmentalist since 2011, participating regularly at the UN Climate Summits. Currently, I am pursuing peace and conflict studies at the University of Innsbruck in Austria. Now, please allow me to make a very brief introduction of the esteemed speakers here on the stage. Please refer to the booklet for more detailed description of the speakers. The first speaker of the day is Dr. Sucharit, currently Associate Professor at the Water Resource Engineering Department and also Distinguished Scholar in Water Resources Management at the Chulalongkorn University. Professor Sucharit is assigned as the UNESCO Chair on Water and Disaster Management and Climate Change from 2016. He has been awarded from Senate Council in 2012, Paddy's 2014 International Award from the International Society of Paddy and Water Environment Engineering from Japan, ZiZAK Intanea Award of Faculty of Engineering from Chulalongkorn University, 2014, 15, and 16, and also the recipient of Thailand Research Fund in 2017. As I said, please refer more to this booklet for more detailed description. Now, the second speaker, we have Dr. Abbas from Pakistan, an expert in hydrology and water resources with more than 30 years of global experience spanning Asia, Australia, North America, the Middle East, and of course, UNESCO. Dr. Abbas has been part of track 2 diplomacy between Pakistan and Afghanistan on Kabul River Basin, and he is currently involved in a dialogue between Pakistan and India on climate change impacts in the shared Indus River Basin. He is currently the founding chairman of ZiZAK Private Limited, an enterprise specializing in integrated modern water management resolution. And then we have the third speaker and the youngest speaker of the panel 1, Tsering. Dr. Tenzin completed Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from Miranda House and Master of Science in Chemistry from Delhi University. She completed doctoral degree in 2022, just last year, from Lund University in Finland. She is currently a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Eastern Finland, working on microplastic in plastic food packaging items. Now, this panel discussion organized by the Tibet Policy Institute and in collaboration with Chulalongkorn University is as a build-up to the COP28 soon to be held in Dubai. And as here we are gathered to send a message to the global community that the people from the riparian countries which depend on the rivers originating from the Tibet Plateau, are coming together for a common goal and common good, and that we are sending a message to the organizers of the COP conferences that action need to be taken for the common good of the people living in South and Southeast Asian countries, basically the river basin areas where 6 most important rivers in Asia originated from the Tibet Plateau, sustaining life in 10 most populated nations on earth, including Thailand. Now, with only 5 minutes in hand, I request all the speakers to finish within the time allotted, that is 20 minutes, and I will have a beep on the 15th minute so that we can have 20 minutes of collective discussion. With that, I request the first speaker to begin your presentation. Dr. Sucharit will speak on Thailand's case towards the Tibet Plateau as an Asian water tower. Please, sir. pointer.
Good morning, participants. It's a very honor for me to be invited to join in this seminar today on the Tibet, the water tower of Asia. So mainly I will focus on the Thailand case. I think the Thailand case also can be implied to Mekong and also in the Tibet Plateau, which affect to the East Asian countries also. So I'd like to talk about the Thailand case towards the Tibetan Plateau as Asian water tower. This next one. So this is my abstract. Okay, next one. So we, last few years, we are assessing our water security index in the country and in each province, how the water security level is. And we come to the main part is in the central plain of Thailand. This one. This pointer. This pointer. This way. How to use it? That's one. Okay. No, this is a pointer. This one. This one. Okay. So this is the key on the water security index. And in Thailand, we have two areas. This is central plain, and this is northeast plain, which are main of the rice plantation of the country. We are producing about 20 million tons per year of rice, and we consume about 10 million. Another 10 we export outside. So this is Thailand economic. So how this rice can be cultivated, because we have two big dams. And these are starting from 1960, that we have, after the Second World War, we have the two big dams, Puipon Circuit, which generate energy and also the water for this central plain area. So it's about, so it should be 60 years before. So every 20 years, we have stage. So the first 20 years is the Green Revolution. You remember, after World War, we have the food shortage. So world are looking for food. So Erie produce a kind of new species on the rice to have a high yield. And we have water, energy from the dam. So that can be the basic infrastructure for agriculture in this area. And after 20 years, we come to the export, import-oriented industrialization in Thailand. So we move to be the car industry. Another 20 years, we're going to the export. And now we are talking another 20 years, we are trying to be a logistic area of the countries. So with this development, with lacking of fundamental of energy and water cannot be survived. So before that, we are using electricity from dam. But now, dam power is already 70% of the power in Thailand. And agriculture is the main income in the last 60 years. But now GDP of agriculture is 10%. The other is from other sector. So this is a turning point. With the limited, the same two big dams, we are generating the growth of the area. So there are a lot of conflict amongst the water user in the area. Agriculture is the main. They are using 20% of the water, but they produce 10% of GDP. The other sector, another 90% also need water. So how to do it? So this is the conflict. So we started reviewing where the water is using. And then, so we start with energy development, and now the agriculture are using surface and groundwater together because they are using more water. And we export rice. So the money that we export, we have to pay for the subsidy. So now the farmer gets some subsidized scheme from the price. And then when we have the flood, we pay compensation to the farmer. So this is how they are surviving with two schemes so that they can throw in income from the farmer. But they are using a lot of water. So again, they are not counting with the energy cost. They are using pump irrigation also. So at the end, we wonder is net benefit is minus or plus. So that we are trying to do, review it. So we found that the link of the water, energy, and food is linked together. Because farmers are using water, are using energy to produce food and export. So this is an income country. So the policy and institutionalized have to arrange. So in Thailand, we have certain scheme that how we can subsidize the farmers so that they can survive, but not to be richer. So these are something that we have for our arrangement. Again, the data of the water is still water department. Energy is the department energy. And so there are three separate issues that not link well together. So this research try to do that. If we set a paddy production for export, what is the balancing between this? So we select the northeast as an area. So we found that this is a crop area. So you can see this is the main area that we crop. And this is the rice production. So it's also from these two areas. So from this we make the balance, how the water they're using, energy, and then we found that at the end, we are exporting water to other countries. Yeah? Because we export 10 million price of water. We eat only 10. So that's why the other 10, it means that we are using our own water to produce rice and export outside. So this is virtual water. So with the future climate change, we need more storage so that to have to reserve more of the fluctuation. So that will come to the water security. How we can make more secure under the fluctuating atmosphere. So, wait. So this we call virtual water. So that means that we produce them water and they export rice outside. So we are using that water for other people. So this is something that we found. So this is unstable, and the rice price are fluctuating. It depends. Like this year is very high because of the war. So people need food. So Thailand price this year is very good. Farmers are trying to plant a lot because they want money. But in some year, like Vietnam, also export something. So the price go down. So government have to subsidize. So with these two schemes and under the new environment, the system here will not be sustained. So that's why climate change will make more fluctuation. We need more storage. We need more energy. We need more competition in the world paddy market. So how we can survive in this area? So we're going back to the water productivity. We're going back to the energy efficiency. So now the idea now is to grow the crop change. The farmer, we are dividing three areas. If we are doing in the wetland, you can produce rice plus fishing. In the dry land, you have to grow like the others, like sugarcane and plus something in the between. So if we are trying to adjust ourselves, we can make a better water saving and water energy saving, and also have a better income. So there is something that we have to redesign our development scheme, at least in this area, so to have better secure and better food and energy and balance. But this one is very dynamic because it depends on year, it depends on area. The rain is not the same every year. Dry year, what to do? Hot, flood year, what to do? So these kind of things have to be dynamic, not fixed. So it should not be the central rule. It has to be adjustable to the local condition. So this we call it dynamic and resilient agricultural pattern that need to understand both policy-based and so community-based together. So, but government have to subsidize. So we are trying to subsidize for the adaptive and transform better than the compensation. The compensation is still on the same crop, same money, it's still poor. We have to move forward, those who are ready. So that's why we're talking about more benefit in this resilient way. So to have the, so this now we are trying to propose the paddy fishing, paddy plus vegetable, paddy plus fishing. So farmers have to mixing agriculture based, depend on the area and year, so that they can survive and the country can save the water and save energy at the same time. And then we have some new scheme, not only for the compensation and subsidy for the price of the paddy. So this is what we learned from the country. So we go back to Mekong. we review. So this is the climate change in the future. So have the no temperature in the north and in some area, and rainfall will more fluctuate more. So from the change, you can see that in the future, without any dam, they will have they have more flood because of the more severe rain in the north, and also more drought in the south because of the drier season. So each country have different impact, depend on country by country. That's what we review. So we're finding that there are two parts. Climate change is a world issue, but WEF is a local issue, even a country issue. So how we can adjust it together in the same place? So that's why we have the problem in Macro is overfishing, deforestation, water infrastructure. This will be impact with climate change. So but with the development of the hydropower, which more and more, because they need more energy. So we need to carefully consider the hydropower operations in the Plateau. So it assumes that after 3 years of adjustment in impounding, we have less water in the rainy season, but high water more in the dry season. That is a pattern that the hydropower will adjust. So from this part, wait, they are talking again. Sorry. So in Chinese are talking about to find the development model versus the environmental sustainable model for the Mekong, so that the power generation benefit can be shared among the stakeholders. It can be compensation, it can be adaptation, it can be transformation, so that both can have the win-win situation. So it needs WEF approach to do this. But so in Tibet, we review a little bit because water balance is something, energy balance is something, in fact. So we found that there are 6 rivers that we mentioned going down, and then they have some study that in the future they may have. So this is the balance. You can see that in the inner Tibet is blue. It means that the water is minus the plus. So more water in that area. But the water in the Tibet will go to the Pakistan, number 1, and to the Bangladesh, number 2, number 3 to the India, and the third one will go to China. While in the Mekong, it contributes about 5%. So this is a balance. So we can see that who lost and who win because of the Tibet impact. Because so that the main impact will go to the Pakistan. Yeah. So these are the water balance that they make some study. So from this, the main issue is the groundwater in Bangladesh. We now use a lot of cold water. And they have some simulation that if Tibet have problem, this area will be dry forever. And this make a war. Because people, a lot of farmers there are using groundwater to do the wheat and produce outside export. So this is the main impact that the world are going. So that's why so you can see that with the Tibet change, there are snow, there are local precipitation. So in the same time, without them, the fluctuation will be high. So with them, with good operation agreement, they may have this adjustment between the wet season and dry season. However, you need some mechanism to solve compensation, adaptation, and transformation, depend on the development of the community in that area, so that they can have a win-win situation together. So this is a recommendation from what review. So comprehensive strategy in Tibet, like fertilizer application, technical strategy should be improved, and so that you can reduce the greenhouse gas, because it's everybody's duty to do the climate change reduction. However, the result, this one need the optimum agriculture management option for both food and environmental safety in the Tibet area. So as a conclusion, I think I start with hydrology, water balance, to see which shall change and how it matters. So this is clarify who gained and who lost. And second one, with and without impact exchange. So what to do? So in the world now, we are talking about green and smart systems so that they can reduce emission and also reduce the cost with a better production. So now the people will need more, and then we need water energy in some area more. So the impact will be more on the Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, and Mekong. So with new energy source, they will in the many dams now they bring in the Mekong River. So they will change the flow and biodiversity. So that's why we need the new rules and acceptable gain and loss between those two parties. And at the same time, we should comply with the green and production and technology trends in the future. So we can put the measure suitable to that area and have the win-win situation. So Tibet still is a roof of the country. We need the roadmap. And then Tibet and Mekong should join together. The new approach of the CC and also this WEF, we will have a very good tool to make a good plan for both sides. Again, the green technology like green and tourism and agriculture resilient nexus should be combined in the future development. So the session of joining the learning and sharing spaces need to be accommodated. So have a good initiative from now in the Tibet area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sucharit, completing 3 minutes ahead of time. Thank you very much for that very interesting topic and the presentation. Now we have Dr. Hassan Abbas and to speak on conflict prevention and sustainable development in the river basins.
First of all, I'm very thankful to the organizers of this conference, Tibet Policy Institute, for inviting me and speaking on the very important issue of water and the water tower of Tibet, which very rightly pointed out in the previous presentation in the keynote that this water tower is responsible for providing water to about 1/4 the population of the earth. And the countries which are included are from Far East, from Thailand and Laos, all the way to Pakistan and Afghanistan, and China, of course, and the Tibet itself. India is a big population. We are all dependent on this water tower. And with the technology which emerged in the 20th century, which gave us the power of a lot of money, a lot of heavy machinery, we started moving the mountains, we started moving the rivers, we started building dams, and conquering the nature was the way to go in the 20th century. But what we found out that our knowledge at that time was not enough to safely handle that power that came from machines and money. And we made a lot of mistakes. All countries made mistakes. And consequently, we destroyed some of the very important and very unique ecological systems which were dependent on the water towers of Tibet without knowing the significance of those ecological systems nor knowing their role. So, given that, These are some of the things I have listed on this slide. I will not go through each one of these one by one, but one of the last points is very important, that the dams, the large dams that we have built is the Karakoram and Himalayan mountains. A recent study in, I think, 2018 by, I think it was by Harvard or MIT, one of those schools, they published their study, and they told us that these dams are not safe against, none of these dams is safe against magnitude 8 earthquake, and magnitude 8 earthquakes do happen in these mountains at a frequency of approximately once every 200 years, but that is not a very regular interval. Sometimes the time taken is more, and the more the gap between the big event, the more disastrous the next big event. And for the last 500 years, we haven't had a magnitude 8 in this region. So the next big event may be close to magnitude 9. That could be disastrous, and those large structures are a ticking time bomb, besides being, environmentally unfriendly because of so many other reasons. So for the 21st century, this should be our conceptual approach of managing the rivers. It requires governance and it requires adaptation, both things. Now, the governance of the 20th century is more structural oriented and less free flow. We have to shift from more structures to more free flow. Similarly, if the society is not adapted to the changing scenarios, especially because of climate change, and not just the climate change, but also because of the socio-economic development of the globe that we are living on, if we are not adapting with the climate change and global change, then we are moving to unsustainable models. So we have to be most adapted and least structural oriented in our approach. So keeping this thing in mind, we should be thinking of our future development models. Now here is a conceptual paper that was written in the third pole, and this is a picture I have taken from this. These are the two kind of typical scenarios of a river. The top one is the adaptive approach, and the bottom one is the engineered approach. Mostly what we do, especially coming from Pakistan, there are rivers which are very wide and they are running in the floodplains. And what they do is they put those kind of dikes close to the river, reclaim these areas for agriculture and industry and housing and everything, and they narrow down the river. Upstream they build the dams and they so-called control the flow of the river. Now this is one approach. Whereas what we say, what we promote is this approach where the river is allowed to flow, allowed to expand during the floods, allowed to contract during the low flows, allowed to recharge its aquifers, and allowed to release water in the river from the aquifers when the river is running low. We maintain the riparian corridors with vegetations and birds and everything, and a free-flowing river has its own economy. The economy of navigation, the economy of recreation, the economy of wildlife, economy of ecotourism. There are so many ways a free-flowing river can add to the economy of the society which is living close to the river. Now here I'm straight away jumping down to the rivers of Pakistan. Of course these rivers, they originate from here in Tibet. These are not extended up there because this river is actually coming here from Tibet, and then this river is also coming here from Tibet. So the two major rivers, which is Indus and Sutlej, they are originating from the water tower of Tibet and then feeding, then feeding these big river systems which cuts through the landscape of Pakistan. Now we have to look at the opportunities that this very unique hydrogeological system gives to this part of the world, and if we learn to manage this system in a way which is based on the concept I showed on the second slide, then we can have better economy, we can have better sustainability, we can have better social life for the people. This is again, a conceptual explanation of what a free-flowing river does. When it expands, it recharges your aquifer. When there is low flow, then the aquifer is recharging the river and the creeks and the wetlands and everything around it. And when the very low flow is there, maybe these wetlands and creeks are dry, but still the river keeps running because the water which got absorbed here in the heavy floods is now being used. So based on this concept, we think of two mechanisms, because talking in the context of Pakistan, our biggest use of the river water is in the agriculture sector. Like we are using 95% of the river for agriculture, and for that we have built dams and canals and all the big diversion projects and everything, which are not environmentally very friendly. Now here what happens is we conceive of a system of wells which are pumping from the sands of the river, not from the river directly, but we are pumping from the sands underneath the river. And we estimated that the volume of water which is stored in the sands underneath the rivers is about 100 times more than all the dams combined that we have built so far. So 100 times more, and this is natural storage. Put it in another way, this natural storage can actually store about 3 years of the flow of Indus that runs through Pakistan. So 3 years, if we don't have any rain and we keep using the water the way we are using, we are still not going to run out of water. So this is a huge storage. So what we conceptualize is that we pump this water out from the sands and let the river flow on top. And whenever there will be big floods, whatever water we have taken out would be replenished. Then we are promoting renewable energy for pumping the water. And then when this water is taken out, it is pumped through a system of pipes and other mechanisms, and it is going into the area where it can be used in a very efficient way by managing the soil moisture in ground, rather than just flood irrigating the whole area. For that, I mean, with these systems, you don't have to level the grounds. You can have undulating topography and you can still use the water without having to disturb the soils and slopes and everything. Based on this, we are doing 2 projects in Pakistan. One is related to the river management, and for this, if you look, this is how the rivers actually look like in Pakistan, in the plains. Now this is where the river is actually flowing. This is one of the, it is not the main river channel of Indus, because Indus is a very wide river. Indus at this point is about 26 kilometers wide. Now this is not a normal river. It doesn't happen everywhere in the world, but this is 26 kilometers wide, and some of the areas within the riverbed are slightly higher, and they kind of form the islands within the river. And this is one of those islands, and we have put a well over here. It's a large, deep, high production well, and these are 3 piezometers, and we are carrying out an experiment of seeing how much water this tube well can actually sustainably pump out of the river without impacting the environment and other unique ecosystems that we have. And this is another location that was Indus, and this is Satluj River. Here you can see the river more clearly. This is Satluj River. This is coming from India. It is shared between Pakistan and India. This is another, here is another, you can see there's a very elaborate tube well structure. And here we are also estimating and evaluating the energy systems. Like you see, there are solar panels here. This is the grid power supply. You can see a pole here and a transformer here they are providing. And then in these trees, there is a diesel generator. So we are running 3 power supply systems and seeing how each of these systems can help pump us water from this area. So this is the second site which is actually evaluating the capacity of the river to pump and supply for irrigation. This is the tube well which is running. Here you can see this is our ongoing experiment. Day before I was here on this site, and here you can see these are 2 transducers on the pipe of the tube well. They are measuring the flow from the tube well. Like this is right now it is pumping like 2.5 cubic meters per second of flow, which is kind of very high flow. And then here you see the diesel generator, the grid power and the solar power, and everything is being monitored and stuff. And this experiment, similarly, when this well is running, we have piezometers all around, and we are measuring the stresses on the aquifer and as well as on the river. So we have made a very scientific approach. We are not just blindly going into it that, oh, we have aquifer, we have water, and we'll just start putting wells and start taking water out. No. We will be elaborating, we will be doing a very elaborate experiment and putting the boundary conditions right before we go for the next major project. This is one of the sites where we have this deep production well with the tube well, and as the experiment goes, it is throwing the water out into the river. These are some monitoring bores. Some are shallow, one is very deep, and we are looking at the river stresses through this experiment. Then we come to the second part of this concept, which is the soil moisture management system over here. And this is again, we can use so many different efficient irrigation methods like sprinklers, like rain guns, like drip systems, bubbler drip, surface drip, subsurface drip. There are so many others. And with this, we are also looking at a system which is which we see which may be potentially one of the best compared to other irrigation systems, and that system is this is the concept of that system. Again, we start with the concept. Here what we see is there are underground water channels that we create. There are perforated pipes, very small, which bring the water, and there is a sand triangle which is surrounding those pipes, and the water is only filled up to this level in these sand channels, and then it is all buried in ground. And because this sand then comes in contact with the soil, it creates a bubble of moisture, not the full saturation of soil, just a bubble of moisture. And this depth of this system is kept in a way that when the moisture vertically rises through capillary action, it touches the root zone of the plant and minimum water is evaporated. So that increases the efficiency of the water that we put in the system. And when we, this is kind of the conceptual elements of the system that we are developing. There is a water supply system which is controlled by a float valve and tank, and then this is the trench which is running on a very mild slope, and then where this trench finishes, there is a system of collecting overflow and putting it back into this reservoir, so we are not wasting any water in this system. Now this is basically last 5 minutes. Okay. Now this is the inlet of those pipes, and this is the outlet of those pipes. And here you can see this is a plot where this system is. This is where the water is coming in, and this is where the water is being collected. And in between this area, that moisture will be created in the soil. And here is, you can see the small water tank, which is sufficient to supply. This is about 1.5 acres of land. and a water tank as small as a household water tank can actually look after 1.5 acre of land. So that's the kind of efficiency this system can afford. This is again the laying of the system here, and these are the results. Now here, when we put these experimental plots, you can see we are growing here a maize, and this maize is very uniform in size. On the sides you can see the soil is very dry, but the crop is very healthy because there is no water coming onto the surface. And this actually, if you look deep into the surface, this is dry surface, no weeds. So you don't need weeds, weed killers. You don't have to apply so many poisons and herbicides in your land. Similarly, the pest attack is also reduced significantly because those pests who would lay eggs in the standing water, that standing water is not there anymore. So we got very good yields, and the system is very promising. And this is the second experiment we were. This is again the concept of the system. Here you can see the top 2 inches of soil are very dry, but down there the soil is nice and moist. Therefore the roots are not going thirsty. So this is the system that we are developing. And then all these systems are not without very complicated instrumentation. We have so many sensors on the systems, on both systems, not just this irrigation system, but also the bigger system, and those are based AI systems. So we are incorporating AI sensors and everything in order to run these systems. And finally, this is the matrix that we created of comparing the systems which are more environment friendly compared to those which are not very environment friendly. And end of the day, it is the economists who would decide which way to go, because whatever is happening with climate change and everything and greenhouse gas emissions, it is basically driven by the global economy. Because if something does not favor the global economy, it is very difficult for that thing to take off. But if something favors it, then like it or not, it will take off. So this is the externalities and internalities of different water economy engines that we can have on the rivers. And we can draw a comparison by suggesting one system over the other. And at the end of the day, this is the matrix that that would tell us that what kind of system would end up doing what kind of economy, and this can give you a comparison. So for the policymakers, it becomes easier to accept or reject a proposal, because at the end of the day, this matrix would tell us which is economically more beneficial and which is less. So with this, this is the current state of affairs which is going on. We have diked the rivers. It is polluting and everything. And with these two systems, if they are incorporated, they can transform our landscape around the rivers like this. And those are the two experiments we are doing, and we are moving towards sustainability, not just conceptually, but actually we are doing some groundwork in order to learn ourselves, and then we would like to share all our experiments and results with our neighbors, within the region and with the rest of the world, so that if we learn something about managing the rivers in a better way, the world also learns, and the whole planet benefits from the scientific work that we are doing. These are some bibliographic references. I would request the conference organizers to please share these slides with all the participants, all the students in the universities, anyone with these bibliographical references. They will find quite a few more things which I just missed out. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan, for your presentation, and also for your effort for sustainable and smart utilization of river water. And now we have the third speaker of the first session, Tsering, Dr. Tsering, and she will speak on plastics as amplifier to climate change, microplastics in the freshwater resources of the Indian Himalayas. You have 20 minutes as stated earlier.
Good morning, everyone. So my presentation is on plastic as an amplifier to climate change and microplastics in the freshwater sources of Indian Himalaya. So in this presentation, we will have the following content. First, a brief introduction to current status and future scenario of climate change, and then role of plastic in the climate change, and a brief introduction to microplastics. And then coming to the objective of the research, this presentation is based on some of our published paper, and I'll be telling more detail in the subsequent slides. And then material and method, result and discussion, conclusion and reference. So as we all know, the greenhouse gas emission by the anthropogenic activities or by human activities continues to increase over the year, due to which the concentrations of the greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide continues to increase rapidly since 1850. And due to this increase in concentration, it leads to the increase in the global surface temperature. So for example, if you see the third graph, this report is based on IPCC, and it is mentioned that from the year range 2011 to 2020, the global surface temperature has increased 1.1 degrees Celsius as compared to that of 1850 to 90,000. So the same report also mentioned that with increase in an increment of degrees Celsius in the temperature, that it leads to a large variation in global and regional temperature, soil moisture content, and precipitations. So, which means that with the subsequent increase in temperature, then it will have the impact on temperature, the first row, soil moisture content, the second row, and the precipitations in third row, and we will have the extreme situations. So then coming to the plastics, generally plastics are discussed separately. Plastic pollution is discussed separately as in climate change, but if you think really carefully, these two phenomena are very much interlinked. So if we see here the life cycle of plastics, the conventional plastics that we use in our daily life, they are mainly sources from fossil fuels. So until the time these products come to us for us to use, they undergo numerous manufacturing steps, and each of these steps has greenhouse gas emissions. So as we can see here, with the production of plastics, there will be also increase in the greenhouse gas emissions and then subsequent impact on the climate change. So coming to the global plastic production, this graph is based on one of the recent review. The x-axis here, the x-axis here represents the year, and y-axis represents the plastic production in terms of million tons. So in this graph, if we check 2000, the plastic production is estimated 213 million ton, but when we compare it to 2019, even less than a decade, the plastic production has increased more than doubled, which means that the plastic production is increasing at a very alarming rate. So then coming to the microplastics, microplastics are also plastics, however, they are smaller in size. So as we can see here, microplastics are plastic particles that are 5 millimeter in size. However, there's no clear consensus on definition of microplastics. Microplastics can be classified on the basis of different sources, but if you check the physical characteristic and chemical compositions, they have different shape, color, size, density, and when we think in terms of chemical compositions, they are made of different polymers and additives. So depending upon the source of microplastics, they can be classified as primary microplastics, and they are intentionally manufactured in small size, such as cosmetics and cleaning agents. And if you can see the picture there, it's the toothpaste, and these small microbits, they are primary microplastics. And then coming to the secondary microplastics, they are from the breakdown of larger plastic particles, such as plastic bottles. Then coming to why we need to study microplastics. When we think about microplastics, scientists and researchers really started to pay attention to this topic around year 2004. So when we think in terms of research timeline, it's relatively a new area. And there are so many open questions that need to be answered and needs investigation. However, with the current state of knowledge that we have about microplastics, microplastics are considered as an emerging pollutant, and research have indicated that microplastics are found everywhere, from Arctic, Antarctic, Tibetan Plateau, deep ocean, sea, everywhere. Research also indicated that microplastics are also ingested by aquatic organisms, such as fish, mussels, and then they enter into the food chain. And finally, the question of impact of microplastics on the human health. Again, microplastics act as a vector for toxic pollutants such as heavy metals and organic pollutants, which means that microplastics can act as a carrier of these contaminants. And again, the fate and impact of microplastics on the environment require further investigation. Then we go to the Indian Himalaya. So having this background, let's check Indian Himalaya. So this map is from Google Earth Pro. So as we know, Indian Himalaya has 11 states and 2 union territories, and Indian Himalaya hosts large freshwater sources, glaciers, rivers, and lakes. And the largest glacial perennial rivers such as Brahmaputra River, Indus River, they flow through Indian Himalaya, and they are sources from Tibetan Plateau. So these rivers are very crucial for irrigation, industry, and drinking water. Likewise, the lakes on these elevated area also provides to scientists and researchers to have a natural laboratory for monitoring of environmental pollution. Having said that, the objective of the research was the first objective was to investigate the microplastic pollutions in shore sediment of lakes and rivers in the Indian Himalaya. So to give a brief overview of how this objective was occurred, according to my knowledge, there hasn't been any research data on microplastic assessment at these study sites before our study was published. As I mentioned before, this topic is relatively new area, and Indian Himalaya, of course, we need more data in order to understand what is really happening. Then coming to the second objective, which is investigation of impacts on microplastic concentration in sediment by using different pre-treatment methods, meaning this is mainly aimed to contribute to the current state of knowledge of microplastics. Then coming to the study sites, we have 2 rivers, Brahmaputra and Indus River. We collected 10 samples from Brahmaputra River and 8 samples from Indus River. And then 3 lakes in Ladakh, Pangong, and Tsumuridi. We collected 3 samples from each of the lake, and then two samples from Tsokar Lake. The samples were collected in 2018 and 2019. These are some of the pictures taken by me during the sampling campaign. So once the samples were collected, they were transported to laboratory, and they undergo pre-treatment methods, meaning that we treat the samples with different chemicals and enzymes in order to remove all the non-plastic particles and only to get the microplastics. So after pre-treatment is done, then we undergo analysis method, which means to identify the microplastics using different techniques such as spectroscopic technique, and what we have used is Raman and FTIR, but in this presentation I won't be going much detail into this, and I definitely recommend, if you're interested about it, please refer to our published paper, and they're all open access. So after this is done, then we come to the results and discussion. So microplastics were detected in shore sediment of all the sampling sites of freshwater sources of the Indian Himalaya. And these are some of the microplastics pictures which were detected in the studied sites. And when we think in terms of concentrations, Brahmaputra River has the microplastic concentration of 3,505 microplastic per kg dry weight, with a size range of 20 to 5,000 micrometer. And when we think in terms of studied lakes, the Tsumuridi lakes has the highest microplastic concentration, and it has concentrations around 3,800 microplastic per kg with a size range of 100 to 500 micrometer. And when we think in terms of shape, the fragment shape were most dominantly detected, which means that the potential sources of these microplastics could be from larger plastic particles, where when they fragment into smaller sized plastics, then they get deposited in the sediment. Then coming to the chemical analysis, a brief. So the first graph here is for river, and the second graph here is for lakes. So in this bar graph, we can see here that orange and shaded green, they are polyethylene and polypropylene, and they were most commonly detected in the studied sites. And this is inconsistent with the fact that polypropylene and polyethylene are the most commonly used microplastics, are the most commonly used polymer types in different commercial products. Then another interesting observation with our research is that in this graph, the x-axis represents different sites of the lake, and y-axis represents the microplastic concentration, and this orange color represents the samples which were treated with enzymes and chemicals, and the green are those samples which are treated only with chemicals. And when we treat these samples with different pre-treatment methods and see the concentrations, we notice that there's quite a significant difference in these concentrations. And I think it is very important to share such results so that we understand and how we communicate with general citizen. So what causes this differences? And this difference could be mainly attributed from the complex nature of sediment metrics. Sediment samples are very complex type of samples to deal with, and also different pre-treatment methods. And also, the finding also indicates the complex nature of sediments and heterogeneous nature of microplastics. So when we think in terms of plastics, plastic is not really a one thing. It is made up of so many chemicals and additives together, and that forms one product, which we normally call plastics. Then, thinking about the source of microplastics in freshwater sources of Indian Himalaya, they could be from atmospheric transport, meaning that they could be transported through wind or through precipitations, and also waste from tourists. This is one of the most potential sources of microplastics in freshwater bodies of the Indian Himalaya, and that links to the improper waste management and also glacial retreats. So there is a recent study conducted on Mount Everest, and they also observed microplastics in the snow of the Mount Everest. Then coming to the glacial retreats, then we go to the Tibetan Plateau. As we know that Brahmaputra River and Indus River, they are sources from Tibet, and we all agree that Tibet is the water tower of Asia. So it is important for us to have a brief overview of how the situation of microplastics in Tibetan Plateau look like. So this is based on one of the recent review. So microplastics were detected in many environmental compartments. Microplastic concentrations were lower than the densely populated area, and the study also suggested that the plastic waste, which is generated by tourists, they contribute substantially to their microplastics than the local resident. And this is quite in line with our study as well, that the potential sources of microplastics in these sites could be from waste from tourists. Likewise, Tibet, it is highly elevated, and there's a strong UV radiation, and due to these parameters, there is a chances for us for the Tibetan Plateau to become a source of the secondary microplastics due to withering of plastics. And also it is estimated that the microplastics export flux from the melting glaciers will continue to increase with the increase in climate change. Okay, so next, how microplastics and climate change are related. This slide could be one way to explain, but there could be many other ways to explain, and also there might be more points on that. So as we know, with the increase in global warming, there's an increase in precipitations and heat, and due to which there will be a microplastic transport via aerial transportation into the freshwater sources. And again, with the increase in UV radiation, then it also accelerates the aging of the microplastics in water. And frequent precipitations, flood, glacial meltings, again, will lead to increase in surface runoff. And when there is more surface runoff, then there will be increase in microplastics in freshwater sources. Likewise, different strong wind activities could also lead to increase in wind-borne plastics. And another interesting research area is the impact of microplastics on climate change and carbon cycle. And I believe this is quite a new area where the microplastic research really needs to pay attention to this. And I believe in the coming year there will be so many studies conducted on this as well. Okay, so finally coming to the conclusion, according to our study, microplastics were detected in the studied freshwater sources of Indian Himalaya, and the freshwater sources of the Indian Himalaya could become, has the potential to become sink of microplastics. However, as I mentioned in the slide, that whatever the concentrations that were reported in this study shouldn't be considered as a fixed value, because it largely depends on how the experiment was conducted, how the samples were collected, how the analysis was done, and how the pre-treatment methods were conducted, so that it impacts on the reported concentration. Likewise, it's also linked to the intercomparison between the microplastic results, that whenever we do the intercomparison between such study, we also have to take care that what are the similar parameters there and what are the different parameters there, so that we have a very representative comparison. And this is one of the important points that I would like to mention here, is creating awareness on plastic pollutions and microplastic pollutions is very crucial. And through the creating of awareness, then we could also implement efficient waste management system, and also sustainable tourism activities should be promoted in a high mountainous region. And these are some of the references, and most of them are review, and they also consist of so many interesting papers as well that could be checked. And finally, thank you very much for your kind attention, and I specifically would like to thank Tibet Policy Institute for providing me this opportunity to share my results, and also to our co-host, Social Research Institute, Chulalongkorn University, for hosting us in this beautiful space. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tsering, for your presentation on microplastic and its implications. Now, before I open up the floor to the audience here, I have one question to each of you.